How many of you enjoy watching and listening to politicians? Come on, one person at a time. You do, Kebby? Good. I do enjoy listening to politicians because I learn how not to preach. It's really interesting how these men and women are gifted with talking for hours and hours, and when you squeeze it, there is that much left. There is lots of water, lots of words, but at the end of his or her speech, you think to yourself, what did he say? Sometimes we leave those political speeches as we didn't hear anything. And it's even more interesting when people ask them questions. Congressman so-and-so, what do you think about this bill? What should we do? Yes, I am for freedom. Next question. Now, they have mastered the art of giving answers but by not answering any questions. They can talk for 25 minutes and your question still would not be answered. Sometimes I feel like that when I listen to some bishops or priests. They can talk for hours and hours, and when you squeeze it, there is that much left. In the gospel today, Jesus is acting very much politician-like. People try to catch him. People try to entrap him, as gospel says. So they have come up with a perfect trap. It's a perfect question because no matter how he answers, he will end up in trouble. Think about the question. The Pharisees ask him, "Dear Jesus, we adore you so much. You are a great speaker. You always tell the truth, so we know you wouldn't lie to us, would you? You are a truthful man." So there is some brown-nosing in the beginning. But then they get to the matter of fact. "So, wonderful teacher, what do you think? Is it okay to pay taxes to Rome? Or is it not okay to pay Roman taxes?" It's a perfect trap question. Because again, no matter what he says, he will end up in trouble. If he says, it is okay to pay Roman taxes, his Jewish listeners will think of him as a traitor. Remember, Rome is occupying Israel. This is not paying tax to IRS, to your own country. This is paying taxes to someone who is occupying by force your homeland. Jews hate Romans. They can't stand them. To make things worse, Roman Caesars, Roman emperors, consider themselves to be gods. They call themselves divine. For a Jewish person to call another human person divine is abomination. So it's very extremely offensive to practicing Jews to pay Roman taxes. So if he says you should pay, his Jewish friends and followers will stop listening to him. He's a traitor. He sells us. We should not listen to him anymore. Now if he says, no, don't pay taxes, he will end up in handcuffs the very same day. The Roman soldiers will accuse him of inspiring rebellion and uprising. We cannot have that. You see, the beauty of Roman Empire was that they were very tolerant. When the Roman Empire conquered a country, they allowed them to keep their own overlords, they allowed them to keep their own religions. They were extremely tolerant. There were only two conditions to keep peace. You have to allow our legions to station in your country, and you've got to pay our taxes. Everything else, do as you please. So taxes are very foundational for Roman Empire's survival. If Jesus says, don't pay taxes, he will end up in jail immediately. You see what a perfect trap question it is? So Jesus is exercising his skills as a politician. He says, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. Duh? What did he say? How to interpret such a philosophical statement? Render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's? Well, what is Caesar's? The coin that you pay the tax with has Caesar's face on top of it. So it could be interpreted that you should pay taxes, right? On the other hand, what is God's? Everything belongs to God. So it could be interpreted, don't pay taxes. So at this point, Jesus comes up with an answer that is non-answer. It doesn't answer anything. It creates more confusion. And Bible scholars for 2,000 years since then have been wondering, what the heck did he mean? We don't know. It's a very shrewd political answer. Basically, Jesus says, it's none of your business. You won't catch me. I am smarter than you. In the 10th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, Jesus said, be shrewd like serpents. Sometimes we have to be shrewd and wise and prudent like serpents. As Christians and Catholics, we have been taught since young age that we should tell the truth, that we should not lie. But if you think about it, Jesus is not answering truthfully, because Jesus is giving a non-answer answer. And I remember in the seminary classes, our moral theology professor taught us that there is such a concept as undue truth. Undue truth. It means that someone demands of you truth, but he or she has no right to that truth. And they gave us a good example. You know, in World War II, Poland was occupied by Nazi Germany. And they have introduced laws that every Jewish person had to live in ghetto area. Every Pole who would protect Jews would be sentenced to concentration camp as well. And yet, thousands of Polish people would hide their Jewish neighbors and friends in their basements, in their attics, anywhere else. Of course, the Nazis would not be happy if they found out it. So if a Nazi soldier knocks on your door and asks you, are there any Jews in your house? If you want to be a purist, and if you want to say the truth, right, you should say, sure, right there in my attic. But that Nazi soldier has no right to know the truth. It's undue truth. He has no right to demand of you that true statement. There are times and situations in our life when we have to choose between being truthful and being safe, for your own sake, or for your friend's sake, for your neighbor's sake, for your family's sake. And as you know, human life has much higher value than being truthful. So such a Polish person hiding Jews in his or her basement or attic was not only allowed to lie, but he or she should not tell the truth, because human life was on line. So there will be times, there will be instances in your life when someone will demand to know something and that someone has no right to know the truth. Not everyone has to know every detail about your family life. There are things that you should keep between your spouse and yourself. You don't need to put every single thought that comes to your mind in your Facebook profile. You don't have to put everything on Twitter. You don't have to let everybody know what's going on in your married life. We have to protect certain aspects of our litigation in secrecy. If we don't, we get in trouble. There are some aspects of church life, of family life, of country life that should be protected, because not everyone has the right to know all the truth. And Jesus' answer by not answering this question is a good example. There are times when we need to be wise and shrewd as serpents.